Cobbler's Square, the sound of the riot could be heard from every direction. The shepherd drank deep in anger, proclaiming that the day of doom was nigh, just as he had foretold, and calling down the wrath of the gods upon the unnatural queen who sits bleeding upon the iron throne, glistening red with blood of her sweet sister. When a sceptre in the crowd cried out, pleading for him to save the city, the shepherd said, "Only the mother's mercy can save you, but you drove your mother from the city with your pride and lust and avarice. Now it is the stranger who comes. On a dark horse with burning eyes he comes, a scourge of fire in his hand, to cleanse the pits and sins of demons and all who bow before them. Listen, can you hear the sound of burning hooves? He comes." The crowd took up a cry, wailing, he comes, as 1,000 torches filled the square with pools of smoky yellow light. Soon enough the shouts died away, and through the night the sounds of iron hooves on cobblestone grew louder. Not the stranger, but 500, Mushroom says in his testimony. The city watch had come in strength, 500 men clad in black ring-mailed steel and long golden cloaks, armed with short swords, spears and spiked cudgels. They formed up on the south side of the square, behind a wall of shields and spears. At their head rode Sir Luther Largent upon an armoured warhorse, a longsword in hand. The mere sight of him was enough to send hundreds streaming into the alleys and side streets. Hundreds more fled when Sir Luther ordered the gold cloaks to advance. 10,000 remained, however. The press was so thick that many who might have gladly have fled found themselves unable to, pushed and shoved and trod upon. Others surged forward, locked arms and began to shout and curse as the spears advanced to the slow beat of drums. "Make way, you bloody fools," Sir Luther roared at the shepherd's flock. "Go home, no harm will come to you. Go home, only want the shepherd." Some say the first man to die was a baker, who grunted in surprise when the spear point pierced his flesh and he saw his apron turning red. Others claim it was a little girl trodden under by Sir Luther's warhorse. A rock came flying from the crowd, striking a spearman on the brow. Shouts and curses were heard. Sticks and stones and chamber pots came raining down from rooftops. An archer across the square began to loose his shafts. A torch thrust at a gold cloak, whose gold cloak began to burn. On the far side of Cobbler's Square, the shepherd was bundled away by his acolytes. "Stop him," Sir Luther shouted. "Seize him, stop him." He spurred his horse, cutting his way through the throngs, and his gold-cloaked followers, discarding their spears, to draw swords and cudgels. The shepherd's followers were screaming, falling, running. Others produced weapons of their own, dirks and daggers, mauls and clubs, broken spears and rusted swords. The gold-cloaks were large men, young, strong and disciplined, well-armed and well-armoured. For 20 yards or more their shield wall held, and they cut a bloody road through the crowd, leaving dead and dying all around them. But they numbered only 500 against 10,000. One watchman fell, and then another, and suddenly the small folk were slipping through the gaps in the line, screaming curses. The shepherd's flock attacked with knives, stones, even teeth, swarming over the city watch and around their flanks, attacking from behind, flinging tiles down from the roofs and balconies. Battle had turned to riot, had turned to slaughter. Surrounded on all sides, the gold cloaks found themselves hemmed in and swept under, with no room to wield their weapons. Many died on the points of their own swords. Others were torn to pieces, kicked to death, trampled underfoot, hacked apart with hoes and butcher's cleavers. Even the fearsome Sir Luther Largent could not escape the carnage. His sword torn from his grasp, Largent was pulled from his saddle, stabbed in the belly and bludgeoned to death. His helm and head so crushed that it was only by the size of his body that he was recognised when the corpse wagons came the next day. During that long night, Septon Eustace tells us, the shepherd held sway over half the city, while strange lords and kings of Misrule squabbled over the rest. Hundreds of men gathered around Wat the Tanner, who rode through the street on a white horse, brandishing Lord Cautegar's severed head, and declaring an end to all taxes. In a brothel on the Street of Silk, the whores raised up their own king, a pale-haired boy of 4 named Gaiman, supposedly a bastard of the missing King Aegon II. Not to be outdone, a hedge knight named Sir Perkin the Flea crowned his own squire Trystane, a boy of 16, declaring him to be the natural son of the late King Viserys. Any knight can make a knight, and when Sir Perkin began dubbing every sellsword, thief and butcher's boy who flocked to Trystane's banner, men and boys appeared by the hundred to pledge themselves to his cause. By dawn, fires were burning throughout the city. Cobbler's Square was littered with corpses, and a band of lawless men roamed Flea Bottom, breaking into shops and homes, and laying rough hands on every honest person they encountered. The surviving gold cloaks had retreated to their barracks, while gutter knights, mummers' nights, and mad prophets ruled the streets. Like roaches they resembled. The worst of these fled before the light, retreating into hidey holes and cellars to sleep off their drunk, divvy up their plunder, and wash the blood off their hands. The gold cloaks at the Old Gate and the Dragon Gate sallied forth under the command of their captains, Sir Balon Breich and Sir Garth the Harelip, and by midday they managed to restore some semblance of order to the streets north and east of Rhaenys Hill. Sir Merrick Manderley, leading 100 White Harbour men, did the same for the area northeast of Aegon's High Hill, down towards the Iron Gate. The rest of King's Landing remained in chaos. When Sir Torrhen Manderley led Northmen down the Hook, they found Fishmongers Square and River Row swarming with Sir Perkin's gutter knights. At the River Gate, King Tristain's ragged banner flew above the battlements, while the bodies of the captains and 3 of his sergeants hung from the gatehouse. The remainder of the Mudford garrison had gone over to Sir Perkin. Sir Torrhen lost a quarter of his men fighting his way back to the Red Keep. It escaped lightly compared to Laurent Marband, who led 100 knights and men at arms into Flea Bottom. 16 returned. Sir Laurent, Lord Commander of the Queen's Guard, was not among them. By that evening, Rhaenyra Targaryen found herself beset on every side, her reign in ruins. The Queen wept when they told them how Sir Laurent died, but Mushroom testifies. But she raged when she heard that Maidenpaw had gone over to Aegon, that the Dragonseed Nettles had escaped, that her own beloved consort, Daemon, had betrayed her, and she trembled when Lady Marissa warned against the coming dark, that this next night would be worse than the last. At dawn 100 men attended her in the throne room, but one by one they slipped away, or were dismissed, till only Mushroom and her sons remained. My faithful Mushroom, her grace called me. Would that all men treat me as true as you, I should make you my hand. When I replied I would sooner become her consort, she laughed. No sound was ever sweeter. It was good to hear her laugh. However, Munkin's true telling says nothing of the Queen's laughter, only that her grace swung from rage to despair, clutching so desperately at the Iron Throne that both hands were bloody by the time the sun set. She gave command of the Gold Cloak to Sir Balon Breich, captain at the Iron Gate, and sent ravens to Winterfell and the Eyrie, pleading for more aid, ordered that a decree be made up against Mootons and Maidenpaw, and yet named the young Sir Gleeden Good, Lord Commander of her Queen's Guard. Though only 20, and a member of the White Swords for less than a month, Good had been distinguishing himself during the fight at Flea Bottom earlier that day. It was he who brought back Sir Laurent's body, to keep it from the rioters. Though the full Mushroom does not figure in Septon Eustace's account, nor in Munkin's true telling, both speak of the Queen's sons. Aegon the Younger was ever at his mother's side, yet seldom spoke a word. Prince Joffrey, 13, donned squire's armour and begged his mother to let him ride to the dragon pit at Mount Tyrax. I want to fight for you, mother, as my brothers did. Let me prove that I am as brave as they were. His words only deepened Rhaenyra's resolve, however. Brave they were, and dead they are, the both of them, my sweet boys. And once more, Rhaenyra forbade the prince from leaving the castle. With the setting of the sun, the vermin of King's Landing emerged once more from the rat pits and hidey holes and cellars in ever greater numbers than the night before.